Hi, Monkey fans. Mike Ventrella here, and
Mark Arnold, how are you?
we're going to count down the top 25 Monkees songs that made the Billboard charts because there were only 25 songs, so that makes it easy. And we'll start right off. Let's get off with number 25, Mark.
Okay, number 25 is actually their last U.S. single billed to the Monkees before they broke up, and it is Oh My My, and that went to a peak high of number 98.
That was only on the charts for 2 weeks, and it gets a grand total of 5 points on our little chart here. Number 24 is What Are We Going to Do? This is a single by Davey Jones before the Monkees. They were trying to push him as a big star, of course, at the time. It didn't really sell that well. It got as high as number 93 for 3 weeks. Came out in August of 1965, pre-Monkees.
I don't even have it, so
yeah, it's pretty obscure, yes.
Then the next single we have is number 23. It's one of their reunion singles, and it's a pretty good track. It's Heart and Soul, and I have one on pink vinyl. It went to a peak high of number 89 for 2 weeks.
Yeah, that was when they were trying to have a big rebound and come back. It didn't quite do as well as they had hoped, obviously. I think Mark and I both agree there should have been a different song off that album that should have been the single, which you can read about in our books. Number 22 is Good Clean Fun. This came out in September of 69. It got up to number 82 for 5 weeks. This was the first single that had both Monkees on it. In other words, Mike wrote side 1 and Mickey wrote side 2. Side 2, Mommy and Daddy, didn't make the charts at all. Good Clean Fun got up there a little bit. It has 36 points on our little chart, but that's about the best it did.
Next on the list is number 21, and it is Someday Man, a Davy Jones single that was not on any album initially, and it became the B-side later to listen to the band. They just flipped the sides. It was number 81 for 2 weeks, and what does it say on here? It's technically tied with Good Clean Fun, but it got higher on the charts. So
that's why we put it above. So technically 22 and 21 point-wise are tied, but since Someday Man got higher on the chart, we put it at number 21. Mm-hmm. Now we're up to number 20. Number 20 is Don't Do It by Mickey Dolenz. Don't Do It is a song that he recorded before the Monkees when he was playing in a band called the Missing Links, believe it or not. And it got up to when the Monkees became a hit, obviously they re-released it hoping to, cash in on it, but it's not that great of a song. It got up to number 75 for 4 weeks in March of 67.
That's one of those songs, if you know the title, you know the lyrics.
So. Yes.
Anyway, the next one is the one I just showed, which I guess I could show it. Again, it's this one, but they flipped the titles. Listen to the Band became the A-side, and it only went to number 63 in 8-week chart listing, and even though it's considered one of the best Monkees tracks, and they close virtually every show with it when you see them live.
Yeah, this came out after the show was off the air, of course, and so it didn't quite sell as well as it should have, because it's a very good song. Now we're up to number 18, which Mark and I both agree is our favorite Monkees song ever, and it only got up to high number 18. It's the Porpoise song from their movie Head. This got up to number 62 for 6 weeks. In October of 68, the show had been off the air, the movie bombed, but this is a great song by Carole King, and we love it.
Yep. And there's a short version and a long version if you care to seek those out. So
let me take a moment to talk about the points, though, before we get
the points. Go ahead.
Basically, here's what we did. We looked at the Billboard charts, and if a song got to number 100, we gave it 1 point. If it got to number 1, we gave it 100 points. So that's when I'm talking about the points here. We go into details, and you can see. We'll talk about our book later, but all this is in our book, the first Monkey book, if you get a chance to read up and you care about these kind of things. So when you hear me say points, it's based on how long it stayed on the chart and how high it got. Obviously, the more points it got. So now let's turn to number 17.
Okay, number 17 was off their album Instant Replay, and a lot of people say it sounds like Last Train to Clarksville. I kind of beg to differ, but still, it's a pretty decent track. But it only got to number 56 because, again, the show was off the air, but it is Teardrop City, and then quickly before that.
Teardrop City actually was recorded around the same time as Last Train to Clarksville. They didn't release it until after the Beatles, after the Monkees had pretty much gone off the air, and so it didn't quite hit as well as it could have. Number 16 is It's Nice to Be With You. That's a song by Davey Jones, sings it. It's on the B-side of D.W. Washburn. And I should mention, we've been talking about B-sides. Back in the 60s, Billboard cared more about airplay than it did about sales, really. So B-sides would get on the charts as well as the A-sides, which can be quite confusing for people, of course, because it's not based... Anyway, we'll get on to it. It's Nice to Be With You. Got up to number 51, stayed there for 7 weeks. Got 311 points.
To piggyback on that, yeah, B-sides were charted separately until 1969 when Beatles put out Something and Come Together, and they kept going up the charts together, and they said, oh, screw it, let's just make it number one.
Yes.
Next one, number 15, is another B-side. The Girl I Knew Somewhere is the B-side to A Little Bit Me, A Little Bit You. And so it made it to number 39 on its own for 5 weeks.
Yeah, so that was the first Michael Nesmith song to make the charts that he had written. And it actually made the top 40, even though it was only there for like a very, very short time. So that was nice. Speaking of Michael Nesmith, number 14 is Tapioca Tundra, another Michael Nesmith written song. This one is the B-side of Valerie. I bet it would have sold a lot better had he actually named it something that people could remember, because no one calls up and says, play that song. I don't, Tapioca Tundra, whoever heard of that? But anyway, it got up to number 34, stayed there for 6 weeks. So that was another Nesmith written tune.
Mm-hmm. Well, we had solo records from Davey, from Michael and from Mickey at this point. That's what I meant to say.
Oh, actually, no, Davey. Michael, we haven't.
Oh, Davey had one before too.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
I'm getting all confused. But number 13 is, instead of Davey before the Monkees, this is Davey after the Monkees. He had a hit with Rainy Jane. It went all the way to number 52 and was on the charts for 9 weeks.
Yeah, this was around 1971 when they were trying to make him into the next star instead of Mickey, and they gave him an album full of, Partridge Family outtakes, basically. Now we get to Mike. Number 12 is one of Mike's hits, Silver Moon. That got up to number 42. That was on one of his early albums back in 1970. It was the follow-up to Joan, which we're going to get to sooner or later. It's a very good song, and it didn't quite make the top 40, but it did pretty well and got 381 points, if you care about that kind of thing.
And he does a pretty good version if you ever get Elephant Parts of video of that. So next single is the first single officially released after the TV show was done. It has differing opinions from people because it's very different than their other song. It's D.W. Washburn, and there's a group shot. There's a nice picture sleeve for this. Went all the way to number 19, and I think that's just because the momentum of the Monkees still allowing them to have hits, but it's not the greatest song.
No, I bet if the show was still on the air, it might have done better, but 19 is a big letdown for a band that was constantly making the top 1, 2, or 3 before that. Number 10 is another B-side, probably one of their biggest B-sides, which is I'm Not Your Stepping Stone. Everyone knows that song. That came out in 66. It was the B-side of I'm a Believer, and that got all the way up to number 20 and stayed there for 8 weeks. So it did pretty well.
It is a garage rock staple.
Oh, absolutely.
Another B-side is number 9 coming up. Words. It's not the Bee Gees' Words. It's the version by the Monkees. And this was the B-side to Pleasant Valley Sunday. It was their highest charting B-side. Actually made it to number 11. Almost cracked the top 10 on its own. It went up. It was on the charts for 9 weeks.
Number 8 is Michael Nesmith's biggest hit, which was Joanne. After they split up, and he went off and made his own album. This came off of his first album, and it got a lot of airplay, and it got up to number 21. Didn't quite make the 20s, but that's a pretty good sign. It actually did better than D.W. It did better than D.W. Washburn in the long term. It got right. It stayed on the charts longer. Didn't quite make it as high as D.W. Washburn, but it stayed on the charts for a longer period of time, and therefore it comes in at number 8 on our list. And now we're going to get to, when we get to the top 7, you're going to see, we're going to start getting into much, much higher, the bigger hits, as you might guess. So let's talk a bit about our books, though, because we did mention that earlier. We have 2 books about the Monkees. Most of the information in this video comes from our first book, which is a long title, Looking for the Good Times. And we go into every single Monkee song and we describe it. And then there's a list in the back with all the Billboard charts, and there's all kinds of stuff in there. Mark, you want to say anything else about that particular book?
Well, yeah, we cover all the albums up through, but not including the Christmas album, because our book was released to that, so maybe there'll be an update. But right now, don't let that deter you. We do talk about the Christmas album in our second book, which is mainly about the solo years. It's called Headquarters. Chronicle of the Monkees solo years. And that takes us all the way up to the present day, practically, with the Mickey and Michael tour, sorry. And, and then I guess we're going to continue on with our list, but I'll say we can get the books. You can get them through Bear Manor Media. You can get them through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere online. You can even get them directly through us if you send us an email and drop us a line. So,
All right, we're up to number 7. That's you.
Number 7. This was their big reunion single. They did it like a reunion single in 1976 called Christmas Is My Time of the Year, but it didn't do anything. It was a fan club release. But this is a big, that was then, this is now. It's a brand new 1986 recording with Mickey Dolenz and Peter Tork of the Monkees. And it went all the way to number 20 and was on for 14 weeks. It was a big hit at the time. I wish it was even bigger, but hey, at least they got it back on the charts.
That's right. This was when there was a big, huge Monkee reunion on Nickelodeon and everything, and their albums were selling again and everything. So this was a way to capitalize in on that. Now we're getting up to the top 6 songs that were all done during the TV series, which of course helps sell it. When you've got a half-an-hour commercial every week, it's easy to sell a lot of albums. But these are good songs that deserve to get up to the hit. Number 6 is Valerie. Valerie came out in March of '68, right near the end of the TV series. It got up to number 3 and stayed there for 10 weeks. It gets 806 points on our chart. It's a very good, quick little voice and heart song that did pretty well. Although, honestly, it was an earlier song that they revamped. In other words, it's a song, if you watch the TV show, you'll see it in the first series. But here they re-recorded it, added some horns, and made it a lot better, in my opinion.
And even that, they have like multiple versions. There's a fade out version, which I believe that single is. And then there's one that just cuts off, right. A hard drop cut. Next one on the list is number 5. It is, again, like Porpoise Song, one of my favorites. It's probably Porpoise Song and this one, volley for top spot, in my opinion. It is Pleasant Valley Sunday, yet another good Goffin King tune, as is Porpoise Song. It was number 3, amazingly. It didn't go to number 1. It was on the charts for 10 weeks.
Number 4, we're getting to a song that Davey sang, that Don Kirshner's last effort before he was absolutely completely fired, and it's called A Little Bit Me, A Little Bit You, another Neil Diamond song trying to follow up on the success of the previous Neil Diamond song, I'm a Believer. It's a very good song. It only got up to number 2, though, which was a little bit disappointing after the big hit of I'm a Believer, which came right before it. It was stayed on the charts for 10 weeks, and our point-wise gives it 878 points.
Number 3, I'm surprised this actually didn't go up higher. I thought this would be number 1, but I get it. They had a momentum and everything like that. But it's their very first chart hit, and I have it in black and white and color. Last Train to Clarksville. I don't know if this is because people had black and white sets and color sets, and they gave them a choice. But anyway, it was number 1 for 15 weeks. Well, not in a row, but it was on the charts for 15 weeks.
Yes. Yeah, it
that'd
was
be
number 1 for 15 weeks on the charts for 15. Yeah, that'd be amazing. So yeah, that was a pretty big hit. Actually, that would have been number 2. Number 2 is actually Daydream Believer, as you might have guessed. I think anyone watching this who's a Monkees fan already knows what number 1's going to be. Daydream Believer, the reason Daydream Believer was number 2 instead of number 3 is because it fell off the charts and then came back again. The first time it was on the charts, it got up to number 1, where it stayed for 4 weeks, which is quite impressive. But it stayed on the charts totally for 12 weeks. And then it fell off the charts. And then in '86, after that, after the big reunion when they put out their songs, right, they re-released it, remixed it slightly and sent it out, and it got up to the chart, but only got up to number 79 for a couple of weeks. So when you add those two together, that puts us at number 2 with 1268 points, which is just slightly ahead of Last Train to Clarksville, which is 1252. So yeah, they're very close. But Daydream Believer is a hit. When everyone thinks of the Monkees, that's what they think of. They think of I'm a Believer and Daydream Believer, mostly the Believer songs. And of course, we're up to number 1, which everyone already probably has guessed from the very beginning.
It's one of these cereal box records, isn't it? No, it is I'm a Believer. And that went to number 1, and it was incredible number 1 for incredible 7 weeks. Can I say incredible more?
Yes, that is quite amazing for any song. Very unusual for a song to stay up that long. I don't think the Beatles did it until Hey Jude, probably. You know?
Yeah, and that was after this. So.
And that was after this, right? And it stayed on the charts for 15 weeks. It has points of 1373, so you can see it's high above both Last Train and Daydream Believer in terms of our little chart. But as expected, I'm a Believer is number one. That's the one song that people think about, you know, and then Mickey always introduces by saying, "I sang this before Shrek." But that's our list. That's our 25 list. We wanted to go through it pretty quickly, so we didn't hold you up too long. I hope you enjoyed it. And once more, you can get our books. There will be a link at the end of this video to tell you about that. And that's all I have to say. Mark, anything from you?
No, but have a good time. Bye, collect the Monkees.